Okay, everyone, welcome back to our third video. This one we're going to be creating online forms. I'm sure you're all familiar with online forms. You go on to Amazon and you click sign in, or you click on register, which will bring up a form starting with your name and whatever pertinent information and username and password. If you're just signing in, of course, you're going to get a username and password and a little box that says forgot my password. There's so many different things that you need to do. If you're signing up online for a doctor's, you're going to have to put in all kinds of other information if you're one of the ones that actually lets you sign up online. Most of the ones, unfortunately, you have to go in there and physically handwrite all that stuff, and that is not fun anymore. So let us just go to page 242, and we're going to create a form. Now remember, when you actually create the form, you don't do anything but create a blank form. It has absolutely nothing in it. So let me open up sign up. And we want to be on live view, which we're in live view. Then it wants us to click in the paragraph below the heading. And we're going to go to insert and make sure form is selected up here. If you have HTML, make sure you choose form and then choose form. Now don't drag it, just click. And it's going to ask you, where do you want to put it? And it's just basically after the element. So always be careful in the book where it may say click or it may say click and drag. So different things will happen. If you just drag it, it will put it to wherever you want to do it. If you just click, it'll ask you, where do you want to put it? Which way to do it? Totally up to you. They both do the same thing. You can always undo it and you're good shape. So in the property windows, we're going to type in register for the form ID. So we need to, here's the form ID. We're going to type register, which is just the name of the form. It allows you to modify that form through CSS by using the register. And you'll see that would have a number sign. So we're going to click on, we did the form ID field, and we're going to type in the action field. Now the action field is either going to be get or post. For right now, without any detailed explanation, always make sure you're using post. Get gives you limited things, plus it also shows the information that you're typing. So we're going to do an email, which always begins with mail to and a colon, and then the actual email address. Now they have mail to, and then they have voices. That is an invalid email. But I'm going to leave it because this is what the book says. Remember, it would have to be voices.com, voices.org, voices.gmail, or whatever. So if you tried to submit that, you would get a error message over here. So that takes care of number 5. Moving on to number 6, I'm going to briefly talk about this. I'm going to give you a video on the form field properties, a special video on that to explain a little of these things. But the ID is nothing more than the name of it. It's got no effect on it. Action, what happens when you click on it? A class allows you to obviously apply a class to it for formatting. And then we'll talk more about the default, the get, and the post. Validate is whether or not you validate the form before it gets submitted. So obviously, if something's required and it's not submitted, then when you do actually try to submit it, it will say this is a required field, such as your last name, first name, and other things that are important in here. Then you have autocomplete, end type, target, and accept care check. We'll talk about them more in that special video. So you can read that on your will. So now we're going to create an actual text field. And there are really 2 types of text field. One is just a plain text field with one line, and then one might be a text area, which could be tell us about yourself or things that allows you to have multi-lines. But for right now, we're just working on text fields because we're going to put last name in and first name. So we need to be in the form itself. So I believe we need to go back to, well, let's go into split so you can see what it actually did. So we have form action mail to, and normally the action is the site that you're going to use, the page that you're going to use is going to do the actual processing. That's called the back end. And the method and then the name of it is register and the ID is register in there. You can change either one of those things either way. So we're good there. So let's click on, we have the split in here. So that takes number 3. Then we're going to click on the text button into the element. So we're going to go into, let me see, we want to turn off live. And I'm going to go into design itself. So now we're going to click here. And I'm going to leave the content to the form here. I know it always tells you to get rid of it. I'm just a big fan of leaving it and then getting rid of it at the end. When you're only working on one item, it's not that big a deal. But when you have 3 or 4 different div tags, it's very easy to get confused which is which. So usually I'll just put div and the name of the div, or section and the name of the section, so I know which is which, especially if they're nested. So I'm going to hit the enter key, and again we'll get rid of that later on. So I'm going to drag a text field right here. And notice it says text field and gives a little box. So let's go into code view and let's see what that actually did. So you can see it created label for text field and then input text field name. So those are all the default items that you want to do in here. So that is number 5 in here in a nutshell. Going into number 6, we'll go back to design view. And what it wants us to do in the name field, which is this, we're just going to type in first name. Now notice that's all lowercase. So that takes care of that. Press enter and we're good. Let's go back to split view and see what that did. So now it had label for first name, and to change that for first name. This is not the actual label itself. It's just because we changed the name to first name, then we change that, and everything else gets changed automatically. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the text field here, the label, to first name. I'm going to click on refresh, and notice that that's now has first name. So we're good there. We'll go back to design. And now I'm attempting to do this by memory without looking at the book. So let's see how many mistakes I make. Let's click on drag. Put it over here, and then we have last name. So let's change this field to last name. Spelling does count. And again, we'll put in size and value and other things later. I'm going to click required in here, and I'm going to change this to first name. Now, I, again, don't like doing things here in design view. I'd rather go back into code view just to make sure I have selected what's selected in here. So we're going to choose last name. And that's what you see. Now notice it says required equals required. So I'll click on refresh. And we're good here. Let's go into first name. And let's click on required for this as well. Okay, now we have that. It does tell you to do that in the book. So you can see I'm doing things by dumb luck out of memory without reading the book. So we've done the first name in here. And I'm on page 246. So what we're going to do here is we're going to see, we're in design pane. We're going to place the insertion point after the existing text field and press in there. So we insert another text field using last name. We've done all that stuff. So now we're going to do email. This time we're going to choose email. And obviously we have email, and then it's something that is totally different in here. So we're going to change the name field to email to make the field required. And let's see. So we have, I'm checking to see emails typed in here, ID input in here. Okay. So that looks good. I didn't miss anything by doing it by memory. Let's go into split view. And now you can see that we have in email, type email required and ID email. So now these look kind of ugly, all not kind of lined up nicely. That's going to get changed to CSS, which we're going to do in the next video over here. So we are now at the point where that's bottom page 246. So these are the fields that we have in here: text and max length, read-only, size, tabbings, things like that. The next page is more button, checkbox. I will be going over and making a video on those. So we're going to skip that right now. We're going to create a menu field, which is going to be on the very top. It's going to be on the very bottom, and we're going to select in here. So what we're going to do is, let me see if I missed something, because we have a select to do as well, and the select is afterwards. So we're going to go up top here where it says content for form. It wants it above here, and we're going to create a checkbox. All we have to do is find checkbox. Now don't do checkbox group. Okay, so we have, let's go into it and see what we have in properties. Name equals checkbox, name equals checkbox in here. So what we want to do is we want to change the label. Okay, now notice that the label, this case, is after the checkbox. And the reason being is because you have the checkbox and the text to the right. If you put the label first, then it would show to the left of the checkbox, and that would kind of make things a little bit different what you're used to. So we're going to put here, and we will put in how did you hear here about the Desert Voices Music Festival. And a question mark, and make sure that you have a space in there. So that takes care of that. I'm going to click on refresh, and boom. So we're taking care of that now, and I'm going to save everything. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the very last field. Let's see how in here, source, how did you hear about it? So we're going to hit the enter key here. Okay, I remember telling you every time I don't read the book, I get burnt. And when I try to do things by memory, I get burnt. And here's the case. However, it works out good because now I can show you how, if you do something wrong, how you can correct it without having to start all over again. So what I really should have done is chosen the select button and not the checkbox. Checkbox is for something different. So I'm going to choose the select in here. And in the document, we're going to change the field label. So let's go to the actual label itself. Label for select. And let's change this to how did you hear about the festival? And I'm going to copy it and not paste it. And let's go back to design. How did you hear about the festival? So now we're going to actually create some items to choose in here. So I've clicked on it here. I'm going to click on list values, and it's going to allow me to make the list values in there, which will actually be a drop down. So the first one, we're going to type in social media, and we'll just call it social. Now remember, the item label can be anything that you want. I suggest that you stick to the values as all lowercase, one word in there. The next one is going to be Radio Road and radio. Then we want email and email. And we want website, road, and web. And actually, that should be add, not road. So we'll change that. Newspaper and paper. Friend and friend. And then select. And we're going to leave that blank. So I'm going to go back up top here and change this to add. Now I'm going to choose on select, and I'm going to move it all the way up. And we're good. So let's go into code view and split view, and you can see select is at the top, and there's no value, and all other ones in here. If you want to rename them or relabel them or reorder them, you can do that in code view as well. Drag and drop, whatever your favorite way of doing things in here. All right, that takes care of 251. So let's go back into 252, and we're going to actually do what we did. We already created the text box in here. So now all we need to do is change the actual text in here where it says, how did you hear about this? So if you click on the label, you can see that it's for the checkbox in here. So let us go into code view, and let's change it from here. And yes, send me the latest information news. So we want to get rid of this. Yes, send me the latest news about the Desert Voices Music Festival. And that takes care of that. And let's go into design view. And that gets changed in here. So yes, I know that the text and the box don't line up. That all can be taken care of in CSS. So select the field in the actual checkbox to make it accurate. And in the properties, we're going to make the value. Let's see, in the properties, change the field name to agree. And make the field required. And that takes care of that. The value will either be yes or no when it gets processed in there. So the last thing we're going to do is add submit and reset buttons. Pretty cut and dry. So we're going to click on, as soon as you find them, there's our select button, which is actually submit. So let's redo that. As soon as I find them, there it is, submit. Would be nice if they were all in alphabetical order, but they're not. So now we're going to change the actual submit text in here. So I'm on the middle of page 253. And in the properties window, we are going to change for the value. We're going to change that to sign me up. Okay, so that takes care of that. Obviously, okay, that takes care of that. And now we'll just do the reset button. And that takes care of that. That's it for this video. Hopefully it was informative. Hope you learned how to fix mistakes, because I make enough of them. That allows you to go back and see how to fix yours. So have a great day.